In favor, no one opposed, motion carries. Do we have an motion to open the continued public hearing for ATM zoning bylaw amendments, MBTA?
So moved.
Second.
Motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Roll call vote. Mr. Boissy.
Aye.
Mr. Lawrence.
Aye.
Mr. Maloney.
Aye.
Mr. Mike McKnight. Aye. Mr. Orban.
Aye.
Mr. Woodhams.
Aye. Wonder if Mr. English.
What do you think about Mr. English? You think? he
And I'm
gets-
going back to Mr. English. Mr. English.
Rachel, were you trying to tell me something? Aye.
No, it's funny. That list hadn't been updated since Steve Schwarm was on the board. So
Well, apparently it
And
has.
Rob, I've written it on my sheet in 3 different places in 3 different ways. So now I'm just not sure which one I'm going to read. The middle, the first, or in alphabetical order. Mr. English.
Aye.
All right. 7 in favor, no one opposed. Motion carries.
Our 3 new members are already starting to question their decision to run for.
I know.
We haven't even talked about anything yet.
No one said we couldn't have any fun while we do it. Oh.
I was going to say 6 in favor, 1 undecided, but you know. All right. So I don't know that we have a lot to go over tonight. We'll certainly open up for public hearing. I don't think we have anything prepared for tonight, Rachel, other than to update the board on. There is a meeting coming up with the subcommittee group, and I don't know whether we want to, if people want to get some update on the project and kind of how it's shaping up with a work group between EDC, Board of Selectmen, and Planning Board. We could certainly talk about that.
So I attended the select board meeting last night, and it seems as though this working group is going the same way the last working group went. Whereas it's the select board, the EDC, the school committee, the assessors, and the planning board at the high school. And they're going to have an attorney present, one of the attorneys that's been working pro bono for one of these other communities, on what, I don't know. So I don't know as though it's really going to be a working session from what I could sort of discern from the conversation at the select board meeting last night. That's
Is this
April
I'm
30th.
sorry.
Sorry,
I'm
yeah.
sorry, Rachel. Is this the April 30th meeting that I've seen emails about?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
So the conversation on the select board meeting last night led me to believe that this was more than just a working group, or not a working group, something entirely different than a working group meeting.
Are we limited to the 3 members on the committee so we don't end up in a situation?
You would have to continue your public hearing to that date is all. And you can continue it to outside of a regular meeting, and that would be the only thing that's on that agenda,
But is it a joint meeting of the Board of Selectmen and the Planning Board, or is it something else, or is it a working group with the working? So, I mean, I'm confused.
I am as well. I didn't have a chance to sort of touch base with Kevin today.
Okay.
I'm out in the Boston tomorrow, so I do have that on my list to check in with him as to what we're supposed to do on this.
That was my request, is to get a working group get the working group together.
Yes.
Right.
And yes,
So we have a meeting on the 17th, which is before this 30th. So if we continue this when we're done with whatever we're doing today to that meeting, and then what I hear Rachel saying is that when we continue that meeting, we can continue it to the 30th meeting. And then we can continue it from them to our first meeting in May. And then any member here can go to that meeting and we don't run afoul of the open meeting law.
except, correct me if I'm wrong, if it is not a joint meeting of the Board of Selectmen and all the planning board shows up, and it's not a public meeting.
It's our hearing. It's our public hearing continued to that time and date.
Right, but we're not running the meeting.
Why do we have to run the meeting? I mean, we can certainly probably get the selectmen to open the public meeting of the planning board during that meeting and close it at some point.
Yeah, well, I'll send another note to,
But my
Forward
point is,
on
we
this-
can determine if that's the right mechanism between now and our next meeting, and then that, if that's an option, we can go that way. And that would provide a mechanism by which any board member who wanted to attend that meeting
Right.
could be there. And anyone who couldn't, I suppose, then they would be, if we decide to do that, they would have to do a Mullins rule, right?
so not on zoning articles, is that
Not on
correct?
zoning. Okay, great.
Right.
But
So
it
then the
also, if we don't
options
have a
would be open.
quorum, if we don't have a quorum, and we won't be able to open the meeting, so that gets sticky too, so. Where it's not our meeting
agree.
that's being set up, I want to get clarity on.
Yes.
But I think if we know that that's an option and the members of this board would examine their schedules and see if that's something they want to do or not want to do, it won't be sprung on them as a possibility with no notice 2 weeks from now. We can all think it through in our own minds and amongst ourselves, you know, so that we come to that meeting like, do I even want to do that if that option is presented to me and we're
Yep.
prepared to discuss it? So I guess that's why I'm bringing it up, if that makes any sense.
No, it makes sense. I will, at this point, I am traveling and I don't think I will be able to attend that meeting. So
Got it.
what we've offered up, and I don't know if the board voted on this to have an alternate of the 3 members currently, we probably do need to vote that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So that if one of us, Chuck or Jim are not there, myself, that we have the alternate that can step in. Probably a good thing to do anyways.
Sounds like a great idea.
And I'm open to whoever the alternate is. So again, I don't want to limit anybody. We can certainly, somebody can make a motion, we can take a vote.
Yeah, I make a motion to nominate Rob English. I think he had expressed interest.
Okay.
Second that motion.
We have a motion, we have a second, any discussion?
No, this is for the subcommittee in case we actually have a working group.
In case
Instead
we
of
actually end up with a
the
meeting, yeah.
joint meetings.
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Yeah, as an alternate. So any,
Yeah,
Any-
as an alternate, right?
So hold on, because if I were new, this would be going very quickly for me. So I want to make sure both Mr. Orban and Mr. Maloney understand what we're saying. Are you with us so far, or? Because I can kind of review the bidding if you need.
So is it, there's some kind of subgroup that's going to a potential meeting on April 30th and you're looking for an alternative to go instead in case somebody else can't make it? Is that, I mean, the gist of what
Well, there's already a subgroup formed, but it
Yes.
hasn't had anything to do yet because the group it was formed to join has not met once yet. And we thought we had plans to make that happen, but that hasn't happened. So we don't have a definitive plan. But what we're saying now is if that happens on a date and a time where the 3 members of that subcommittee that we've already elected can't make it, the motion is to add an alternate who could replace one of us at need. That and only that is what we're voting on right now.
Just a quick clarification, but we may all be able to go as well,
so.
to be determined, or
Yeah, the reason for the subcommittee is you don't have to open the planning board wouldn't have to open a public hearing if we were with the Board of Selectmen with more than 4 or more members. So what we thought was going to happen was people were going to work offline, Board of Selectmen, Planning Board, EDC. What has happened so far is the Board of Selectmen has driven the 2 meetings. The first one we thought was a subcommittee meeting ended up to be actually, they wanted the whole board there, which was a communication gap. And now this one, which we had asked for a subcommittee meeting, is now turning into something else. So we can certainly go as a board if we put it in the meeting that we're continuing one of our meetings till that date and go as a full board. And then at that meeting, open up our hearing, our planning board hearing, and then close it at the end. So those are the different options. But it's confusing right now.
Yeah, well, because we don't know what's in the mind of the select people, the board, the select board. And the other thing I'd say is that one thing that it would do to do it that way, now that I'm thinking about it, is whatever this lawyer would have to say, whatever that presentation would be a part of our public record in our hearing. And so that might argue for it or against it, but I think that would
Yeah.
definitely be the case if we did it that way. So that's something to blend into
Yeah.
the considerations.
It's a unique situation where the Board of Selectmen and the Planning Board and EDC are getting involved in this. Usually that's in a, when they draft it's like at Ledgeview was an agreement, right? That was crafted by the Board of Selectmen. Planning Board took up the hearings and worked their way through the design, issues and things like that in parts of it. What our responsibility on this is to hold a hearing, open a hearing, hold it. When we get done and we're comfortable as a board, and we were trying to get to a June town meeting, but that discussion with the Board of Selectmen, they wanted to push that out to November to give more time for people to learn about this, look at options, understand it, before it went to town meeting floor vote, because this ultimately goes there for a thumbs up or thumbs down. What we as a planning board do, though, is make a recommendation, either a negative recommendation, a positive recommendation, or are neutral on it. Those are our three options as a planning board. So we don't vote to approve, we don't vote to deny. We vote to say favorable action, no action, or negative action. So, or we don't approve of it.
We take a position, the townsfolk take the vote.
Right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just one thing, I attended the selectmen's meeting last night too, and Rachel, I think they were talking about a meeting to be held in one of the schools. So I think it might be, I think it was going to be that working committee that was expanded so that we included school people and assessors, but I think it's open to the public, because they talked about getting a big venue, but I might have missed that part.
Yeah.
Correct. Yes, that,
Okay.
yeah, that was one of the potential locations for this meeting to happen. However, just, having somebody present, I don't know how the working group is gonna happen that way.
No.
Yes, it can, yeah. So that's all. And I wanted to talk with Kevin to just get clarification on as to how this is supposed to go. So I'll do that when I see him on Monday.
And if it's an information session with 400 people there, I'm not sure that's a planning board venue to open a public hearing. And so,
Well, I suppose we could attend as citizens too.
No,
you can't have more than 3 if it's the planning board, unless it's a planning board and we open a hearing on that. So let me just point of order, go back, because we're in discussion on a bunch of things, but I want to, any more discussion on authorizing Mr. English as an alternate? Nope. Okay, then roll call vote. Mr. Boissy,
Aye.
Mr. English,
Aye.
Mr. Lawrence,
Aye.
Mr. Maloney,
I,
Mike McKnight, aye. Mr. Orban,
Aye.
Mr. Woodhams,
Aye.
7 in favor, no one opposed. Motion carries.
It would have been poetic justice if Mr. English had said, "Oh, I have to abstain because the vote's."
I can't vote for myself.
Well, the thought crossed my mind.
he wasn't on the list.
The one time he calls my name.
So we can continue the discussion on that whole other thing, but I don't think we've had clarity. And Rachel and I have talked about this a little bit. What we thought would happen is that the working group between the EDC, Board of Selectmen, and Planning Board would talk about things like this, and then they would help pull together something as an informational session or presentation or whatever's coming next. So we'll let you know.
Can I offer an opinion?
You may.
My opinion is that until such time as the select board and the EDC decide they want to put a working group together, this subcommittee really doesn't have a mandate to do much of anything. So
No.
the people are here and available, but until the working group is actually formed, it doesn't seem to me that there's really all that much for them to do. But as a townsperson individually, as long as you don't walk into a meeting and see more than two of us and, and decide to open your mouth, you're fine. Do what you
Yeah.
feel you want to do.
Yeah, well, planning board has a role here. We're not tied to the
Right.
decision of the town. We're not tied to whatever EDC or the selectmen say. So we have an obligation to do what we talked about, go through the public hearings, vet it, understand it, make our decision as a planning board for those three options.
And through this process, the seven of us are going to have more than enough opportunity to express our own opinions. So it's not really important that as individual citizens, we show up at some other meeting and express our opinion, because we're going to have the right, we're going to have more opportunity than most,
Right.
So I think, none of us should feel left out if for some reason we're the one who can't attend a particular meeting or whatever, because we do have our own entire set of meetings on this. So that at least makes me feel like there's no chance I'm left out on this thing. That's all I've got.
Anybody else on the planning board have any thoughts about this or need more information? Or there was a presentation, Rachel, that you had put together with a consultant. I don't know if that's helpful for these board members to get up to speed on, but it might be good.
Yep. Yeah, we've been taking all of the conversations that are about MBTA, the clips of that conversation and putting it onto the MBTA website. So that way people can, sort of stay up to date on what has been discussed. I'll put that in the chat so that way people have it. And it's a link on the planning board's page. So as well.
Yep.
So nice and easy to find.
I guess the recommendation is do your research, read what you can, listen to what you can, so that when we are in a position as a board to make that recommendation, that each one of us is well prepared to understand what we are going to vote on and why, in terms of favorable recommendation, no recommendation, or a not interested recommendation.
Also, the select board had Chris Clutchman, director of, I think, community something or other at the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities, present to them, which is also clipped in that. And I did share that with the board separately, but it is on that website. Chuck emailed and asked if she could come and present to the planning board. So I sent her a request. Her hierarchy is much larger than, just, oh yeah, sure, I can go. She has to get permission from the upper echelons to come to that meeting. So I did give her a couple of dates so that way she could come and, sort of talk to you guys about this. I've also reached out to MAPC because our grant ran out with Mass Housing Partnership in Bowler, and they aren't willing to extend more technical assistance because other communities haven't even gotten their first round of grant assistance. So I reached out to MAPC, and that was, Josh Fiala and Andrea Harris Long, who both worked on your master plan, and they're very familiar with, all those meetings and sort of the vision statement of Wrentham as well. So I think that would help if either one of them could be involved in this. That'd be really great for you guys.
Yeah, again, this is maybe when, do the same, when you're talking to Kevin, we've got meetings happening in different places that are pertinent to this board's deliberations, and not everybody can go to a board of selectmen meeting or necessarily listen to all the tapes or know what the tapes are. So it would be good to make sure this planning board has access to any presentation that's being done by any group, especially the board of selectmen.
Yeah,
Rachel, I'm looking at our agenda. And
Yes.
under the planning board agendas and minutes and stuff, there's a thing that says MBTA Communities, but as I just quickly looked through it, I don't see any of the select board stuff. Would that come to that website, or do I have to go to the different one that you just put in the chat?
I would put the one to the chat and I'll double check where that other one goes to. It should go to the same place, but you're saying that it's not, so
No, it does a lot of the planning board stuff, but I'm not sure it connects to the select board stuff. At least not yet, because the most recent things I see there are in February.
yeah, so the link that I just put in the chat,
Yeah,
that's the website, the main sort of MBTA website where it links to the zoning amendments page, but then also on the left-hand side, on my screen, I have a big screen. There's a tab that says recorded meetings,
recorded public meetings.
Yes,
When
on
I
that
click
one-
on that, at the top is February 7th, Wrentham Planning Board presentation, and then it goes February 6th. Oh, I see, 27th, March 6th. Okay, it does. March 19th is the most recent one that I have on there. That's the one you're talking about, right?
yes, and we're
Okay.
gonna get the March
know how to get
20th
there.
up there as well.
Thank you. Got it. Question answered. Usual skill and aplomb.
The town meeting is when? June?
June 3rd,
So we will need a planning board member to present the senior living community bylaw amendments, and I will be out of country on the 3rd. So if we have a volunteer, it's shouldn't be a hard one, but we'll need a planning board member to process the paperwork and present to the town meeting what that zoning bylaw is, what those changes are.
Yeah, I can do it. That's fine.
Okay.
I should be around. Sorry, all of a sudden my computer just decided, oh, I'm going to reboot, and I lost everything. So I reconnected through my tablet. I'm trying to get back on through my computer. So
I don't think you missed much. Any other comments on this from the planning board before we go to see if there's any public comment on MBTA communities? Is anybody in the audience who would like to ask a question about this? We haven't presented any new material necessarily today. Just conversation about what's been happening. So please raise your hand.
Don't see
Not all
any.
at once.
Do not see anything. Any other comments, Rachel, that we should be discussing?
no, I am working on that, what you guys requested, sort of the site selection process
Okay.
now. So I'll have that for April 17th.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we continue the public hearing on the ATM zoning board bylaw amendment to, this says ATM zoning, isn't this the MBTA zoning?
Annual town meeting. It
Oh,
was
annual
supposed
town
to be
meeting.
annual town meeting. That's just my
Okay, annual
shorthand
town meeting
for it.
zoning bylaws to 7:15 at April 17th meeting.
Second,
We have a motion, we have a second, any discussion? Roll call vote, Mr. Boissy,
Aye.
Mr. English,
Aye.
Mr. Lawrence,
Aye.
Mr. Maloney,
aye.
Mike McKnight, aye, Mr. Orban,
Aye.
Mr. Woodhams,
Aye.
7 in favor, no one opposed, motion carries.